When I was 13, my grandmother passed away. My parents had no choice but to bring me back home. At that time, my sister Emily, who was 5 years younger than me, cried and screamed for me to leave.
This is my home. I don't want you here.
Helen looked troubled and said to me,
Nora, your sister is still young and doesn't like having strangers in the house. How about you stay with Aunt Julia for a while?
She wasn't asking, she was informing me of her decision. Because Emily didn't like having strangers at home, I lived with Aunt Julia from the age of 13. And I stayed there for 10 years. At 23, I returned to the Smith family. The reason was that Emily, now 18, no longer resisted me and was willing to accept me. The day I came back, movers were carefully bringing a piano worth tens of thousands of dollars upstairs. Helen was running in and out, afraid the movers might accidentally damage the piano.
Nora, don't compare yourself to Emily. Emily has always been more outstanding and sensible than you. She got into her dream music academy this year, and this is her birthday gift. Don't covet what isn't yours.
I won't. I'm just looking.
Emily, wearing headphones, was sitting on the sofa, her fingers swiftly sliding across her phone screen. I don't know if she heard Helen and my conversation or what, but she glanced at me briefly before quickly looking away.
Emily, don't look at your phone too much, it's bad for your eyes. The weather is dry these days, drink more water.
Helen's expression was gentle and kind as she patiently handed the water to Emily. The concern in her eyes was almost overflowing.
Mom, you're so annoying. I know.
All right, I won't say any more. Just call me if you need more water.
That smile was something I had longed for in countless dreams since I was 6, but I never had the chance to experience it.
Why are you standing there like a statue? If you have nothing to do, go back to your room and don't disturb Emily.
Helen's brows furrowed again when she saw me still standing there. Me? Disturbing her playing on her phone? I didn't say anything and turned back to my room. The Smith family had moved into this 3-story villa 3 months ago. The second floor housed John and Helen's bedroom and study. The third floor was Emily's domain. There were 3 rooms in total. Aside from her bedroom, one was a music room filled with various instruments. The other was a dance studio for Emily. And I lived in a small maid's room on the first floor. In the evening, John came home as well. During dinner, he presented a Porsche key to Emily.
Happy 18th birthday, Emily! This is for you.
Oh my gosh, Dad! A Porsche? Thank you so much!
At the table, John boasted about Emily.
Even if the Smith family went bankrupt because of Emily, there would still be plenty of people supporting us.
Yes, indeed. Remember, a mysterious person gifted us this 3-story villa and now a Porsche. It's clear they are very fond of Emily.
Emily played the piano well and was beautiful. John and Helen were full of confidence in her.
We've been speculating about every notable young man in City A, but none seem to fit the bill.
Don't worry. The mysterious person promised to appear on Emily's birthday.
Emily's face turned slightly red, looking shy. Even then, she didn't forget to bring me up.
I think my sister is more outstanding. She started working before finishing college and can already earn money. I'm still spending the family's money.
Her expression was innocent and harmless. I frowned and glanced at her.
I'm sorry. Sister, are you upset? Did I say something wrong?
Emily, don't blame yourself. Some people are just hopeless. Today is your birthday, there's no need to get upset over irrelevant people.
Emily's lips curled slightly, her eyes full of provocation. I gave Emily a fleeting look and then lowered my gaze with a silent chuckle. John's thoughts were likely preoccupied with the mysterious person who was supposed to appear, making him seem somewhat distracted. The Smith family was now in a precarious situation, and the mysterious gift-giver was their only hope for recovery. As the clock struck 8, John checked his watch more and more frequently. Helen and Emily's joyful expressions gradually faded. John was getting restless, personally going to the door several times to check.
If the person arrives, you should avoid them. Don't embarrass the Smith family.
I nodded expressionlessly. Unfortunately, tonight was destined to disappoint them. Another hour passed, and the mysterious stranger still hadn't shown up. Emily's face looked a bit displeased, teetering on the edge of an outburst.
Emily, why don't you blow out the candles?
Helen kept reassuring herself that the person must have been delayed by something important. After Emily blew out the candles, the family started taking photos. And I was the one holding the phone, the tool for capturing their family moments.
Nora, come join us for a photo!
John gave me a glance that was hard to decipher. Helen's face immediately darkened when she saw the photos.
Nora, everyone looks so happy, and you're standing there with a sour face. What are you trying to do? Embarrass us?
Let's retake it. One more shot, and Mom won't be mad.
Sure enough, Helen's anger dissipated. Then began another round of photos, but Helen was never satisfied. My expressionless face in the photos made her frown more than once. In the end, even Emily lost her patience, and we had to give up. But when it came time to sing the birthday song, I sang the loudest, even catching Emily's attention. I pretended not to notice.
Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you!
As Emily closed her eyes and made a wish with her hands clasped together, I quietly did the same. Nora, happy 23rd birthday. Yes, today was also my birthday. Emily and I were born on the same day, just different years. John didn't remember, and neither did Helen. Since I turned 6, they had never celebrated my birthday again. After the cake, I refreshed my social media feed and saw that John, Helen, and Emily had all posted. Helen's post was a 9-photo collage, all pictures of her, John, and Emily. The caption read,
In the blink of an eye, my precious Emily is 18. No matter how old you get, you'll always be my baby. May our family always be happy and joyful.
John's post was much simpler, just a single sentence.
Happy 18th birthday to Daddy's little princess.
The accompanying photos were also a 9-photo collage. None of the photos included me. Emily's post featured 9 pictures as well. Besides the big group photo in the center, the other 8 were of the gifts she received today. I zoomed in on the group photo. I had been cropped out, leaving only a sliver of my clothing visible. Once upon a time, I was the only little princess of Helen and John. Every year on my birthday, Mr. and Mrs. Smith would carefully prepare various gifts for me.
Nora, you will soon have a little brother or sister. From now on, you won't be lonely anymore. Are you happy?
At that time, I was too young to understand what having a sibling would mean for me, but I was excited. The newborn sister at the neighbor's house was soft and cuddly, and I liked her very much. Having a sister like that seemed wonderful. Later, as Helen's belly grew larger, she could no longer take care of me. So, they decided to send me to my grandmother Margaret's house in the countryside, 1,000 kilometers away.
It's for the best, Nora. We can't manage everything right now.
At 5 years old, being away from my parents for the first time, I was filled with fear and anxiety. I had only one thought: my once loving parents no longer wanted me. And so, I stayed at Margaret's house for 8 years. In the first 2 years, John and Helen would come to visit me. Each time, I thought they were finally going to take me back.
Nora, your parents are coming to visit.
Hearing from Margaret that they were coming, I would start packing my clothes days in advance. But they never took me back.
Emily is still young and I can't manage 2 children. Nora, you are the older sister. You should be more understanding and give way to your sister.
I bit my lip, trying hard not to cry. Once they left, I couldn't help but cry and chase after them. I ran after John and Helen's car, and Margaret ran after me. Margaret was an illiterate country woman, tall and loud-voiced.
Margaret, Tone, shouting, you little rascal, why are you running? Even if you break your legs, your parents won't come back. Come back with me.
When she caught up with me, she dragged me back. Passing by the village entrance, she grumbled and bought 2 pounds of pork to make pork meatballs for me at home. David had passed away early, and both Uncle Mike had settled in other cities due to work. Margaret stubbornly refused to live with them in another city and chose to stay in the countryside alone. Until I came to this home. Narrator, Tone. Sad when I first arrived, Margaret sighed all day, saying life had lost its meaning. She was full of disdain for me because my presence disrupted her life. In her words, she wasn't taking care of a grandchild, she was taking care of an ancestor.
Margaret, Tone, angry bath every day? You're so troublesome. Country folks aren't so particular. Bathing every day wastes firewood and is a hassle.
I was as stubborn as a mule and had a long standoff with Margaret. Narrator, Tone. Serious, if she didn't heat water for my bath, I wouldn't sleep. Eventually, Margaret gave in, grumbling as she heated the water. Margaret wasn't very particular about personal hygiene. She would cook without washing her hands after using the bathroom or blowing her nose. I refused to eat, and Margaret got angry, dumping the prepared food into the pig trough and storming off. Half an hour later, she dragged me out of bed and into the yard.
Margaret, Tone, stern there, they're clean now. Satisfied?
She washed her hands 3 times with soap, then held them up to my face. After that, under my watchful eye, she grumbled and made 2 more dishes. That day, she scrubbed the cooking pot 3 times, rolling her eyes at me the whole time. Whether I liked it or not, I ended up staying at Margaret's house. I stayed for 8 years. In the first 2 years, John and Helen would occasionally come to see me, but then they stopped coming altogether. I almost forgot that 1,000 kilometers away, I once had parents who cared for me.
Margaret, how's Nora doing?
She's the same. Doesn't talk much.
On the other end, a soft voice kept calling, "Mommy, Mommy."
Why are you like a wooden doll? Can't you be a bit sweeter? Life is so bleak.
After scolding, Margaret would sigh heavily, her face full of worry and disappointment. I stubbornly stood there, letting her scold me, refusing to call out Mom on the phone. Days passed in this heartless manner, one after another. Just when I was about to forget John and Helen, they came without a word, bringing Emily with them. I was 11 that year, and Emily was 6. That day, I had just finished helping Margaret with some chores, barefoot and with my pants rolled up, returning from the fields. As soon as I walked into the yard, I saw Emily in a pink puffy dress, white soft leather shoes, and 2 little buns on her head. This was my first meeting with my younger sister, who shared the same parents.
You stink. Are you a beggar?
John and Helen were inside talking to Margaret, and Helen's voice occasionally called out.
Emily, don't run so fast. Be careful not to fall.
My self-esteem felt severely wounded in an instant. I clenched my toes and ignored her, turning to walk outside.
Little beggar, little beggar.
Seeing that I ignored her, she picked up a clod of dirt and threw it at my head. I was furious, unable to bear it any longer, and pushed her to the ground. She got up, enraged, and swung her little fists at me.
I'll beat you, little beggar, I'll beat you.
I was also angry and pushed her down again, sitting on her and slapping her. She cried loudly, her wails piercing the air. John and Helen rushed out upon hearing the noise.
Nora, stop! That's your sister! You're so big now, how can you still be so immature? I regret having you!
She rushed over, grabbed my hair, pulled me away, and slapped me hard before turning to pick up Emily and walking inside. John came over, and without a word, kicked me hard. Margaret, who was a step too slow, ran over to help me up, brushing the dirt off me, her eyes brimming with tears.
Nora, are you hurt anywhere? Tell Grandma.
I didn't speak, just stood there.
Not satisfied, are you? So young, yet so malicious, even towards your 6-year-old sister. If I don't teach you a lesson today, I won't be called John.
John, furious, was about to hit me again. Margaret shielded me behind her, blocking him.
John! Shut up! Take your wife and precious daughter and get out of my house right now.
Mom, we're just trying to teach her. She's still young and can be corrected. If she gets older, it'll be too late.
Teaching, huh? Fine, take her with you and teach her at your home. Don't put on airs in my house. I've never seen a mother like you.
Helen pursed her lips and said nothing. 10 minutes later, she and John left with Emily. She said I was wild and malicious at such a young age, showing no signs of being a proper sister. Since I couldn't get along with Emily, I shouldn't come back to this home either. After John and Helen left, I lay on the bed, groaning but not saying where it hurt. Margaret took me to the hospital. The results came out quickly. Helen's heavy slap had caused permanent hearing loss in my right ear. John's kick had broken 3 of my ribs.
This is unacceptable. How could they do this to you?
The doctor immediately scheduled a hospital stay and surgery. Margaret was furious at the hospital. She cursed John, cursed Helen, and even called Emily a troublemaker. But because surgery was needed, despite her anger, Margaret decided to inform Helen about it.
I'm calling Helen right now. They need to know what they've done.
She dialed Helen's number right in front of me. When the call connected, Helen was clearly still angry. As soon as the call connected, she started blaming Margaret.
Mom, what now? Can you control Nora a bit and not spoil her? Emily was frightened today and has been crying. My heart is breaking.
Do you even know that Nora was hit so hard by you that her eardrum is ruptured and John kicked her and broke 3 ribs? She needs surgery. Are you coming back now or what?
There was a long silence on the other end, then Helen's voice came through, seemingly apologetic.
Mom, Emily was scared and has a bit of a fever. She's been crying to go home. We really can't come back. Nora should be fine, right? Please take care of her.
Helen seemed afraid Margaret would refuse, so she hung up before Margaret could respond. Margaret was furious again but quickly calmed down and reassured me that she could handle it alone. I felt a pang in my heart. From that moment, it seemed like something was slowly peeling away inside me. The surgery went smoothly, and until I was discharged, neither John nor Helen called even once. The day I was discharged, Margaret took me to a clothing store in town and bought me a white dress and a pair of red leather shoes.
Nora, there's no need to envy others. What they have, you can have too.
After we left the store, Margaret started to feel the pinch. She kept muttering about how expensive children's shoes were. 200 yuan could buy her 10 pairs of cloth shoes. When we got back, I put on the dress and new shoes and cried like a fool.
You look pretty good. Why are you crying? Margaret still has money. I'll buy you more next time.
Margaret said cheerfully, circling around me. She thought those 200 yuan shoes looked particularly pleasing. Worth it. Life quickly returned to normal, and in the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. I started middle school. Helen and John never came again. It seemed they had completely forgotten about me. Later, Margaret suddenly passed away. A heart attack took her in her sleep, and she never woke up again. Since I was 11, I hadn't seen my parents until Margaret's funeral. At the funeral, I didn't shed a single tear.
How cold-hearted and unfeeling can you be?
I listened numbly, without any reaction. After the funeral, Helen and John had no choice but to take me with them. From 6 to 13, after 8 years, I finally returned to the home I once knew. On the day I returned to the Smith family, I only stayed for half an hour. When I got home, I found out that the Smith family had already moved to a new house. The small house had turned into a big one. Surveying this unfamiliar home, I timidly sat on the sofa, feeling scared and weak. Margaret's passing had dealt me a devastating blow. My life felt directionless, lost, and confused.
When we met again, Emily cried and screamed, telling me to get out.
This is my home. Get out!
No matter how Helen tried to soothe her, it was no use. She had to say to me,
Nora, your sister is still young. As the elder sister, you need to learn to give in to her. Emily doesn't like strangers at home. You should stay at Aunt Julia's for a while.
Since then, I had been living with Aunt Julia until I went to college and started working. At Aunt Julia's, John and Helen still rarely contacted me. Their visits were few and far between.
Nora, you're living a good life at your aunt's. You should appreciate it.
I showed no emotion. In Helen's eyes, Aunt Julia, who had received a large sum of money after her divorce, lived a life far better than the Smith family. My longing for home gradually faded until it was completely gone. When I was in college, John and Helen came to see me once.
What's with these shabby clothes? Has the Smith family mistreated you? Where is all the living allowance your mom said you gone?
Helen's face changed several times. She stammered to John.
Wasn't it you who sent Nora's living allowance? I didn't know.
I calmly watched the couple blame each other, having no desire to continue the conversation. Before leaving, perhaps out of guilt, John sent me 2,000 yuan on WeChat.
Spend it sparingly and don't compare yourself with others.
I didn't accept it. 24 hours later, the money was returned. The next day, Helen posted on her social media that she had come to the city to bring Emily a gift, a Chanel bag. I had grown accustomed to being ignored and overlooked. This kind of differential treatment was something I had experienced countless times since Emily came into the picture. At this moment, Helen stormed in front of me, pointing at me with eyes full of disdain.
Nora, are you dead or something? Do you even acknowledge me as your mother?
So, what do you want me to do, Mrs. Smith? I asked with a smile, arms crossed, watching Helen fuming.
Nora! How dare you speak to your mother like that? Apologize immediately!
I noticed the smirk on Emily's lips, contemptuous and proud.
Dad, Mom, there's something I didn't want to say, but I can't watch my sister continue down the wrong path. After all, the Smith family has a reputation to uphold.
Emily, full of concern, stepped forward to hold John and Helen, hesitating to speak. Emily always liked to test the limits. The main event of the night was finally about to unfold. John and Helen's attention was clearly drawn to Emily's words. They looked at her with encouraging eyes, signaling her to continue.
Emily, tone, serious sis, don't blame me. I'm doing this for your own good.
Emily seemed to have struggled with her thoughts for a long time. She bit her lip, turned, and went back to her room to fetch a few thin sheets of paper, which she handed to Helen. Helen and John took the papers and began to read them together. Their faces visibly darkened, and a storm was about to break. Emily stood behind them, her demeanor arrogant and her expression malicious.
Helen, tone, shouting, how dare you do such a thing, getting involved in such matters before marriage? You've disgraced the Smith family. How will Emily face the judgment of society? Why don't you just disappear?
Emily, tone, whispering Mom, Dad, please don't be angry. Sis must know she was wrong. Please forgive her. I'm just worried it might affect the person helping our family. I wonder if that person will have a bad impression of me because of this.
Emily bit her lip, her eyes filled with tears. Adding fuel to the fire was indeed her forte.
John! Tone! Shouting Neil! If you don't tell us who that man is, I'll break your legs today!
Emily's eyes were full of glee. Of course, I wasn't foolish enough to stand there and take a kick from my so-called father. I easily dodged it. The pain of 3 broken ribs when I was 11 was something I had never forgotten.
Nora, tone. Serious, Mr. Smith, what if I refuse to kneel?
John! Tone! Shouting you dare to dodge! If I don't beat you today, I won't be called Smith!
John's anger intensified. In his eyes, I had always been silent and reserved. My actions were undoubtedly a challenge to his authority as a father. He chased, and I dodged. Soon, John was panting and collapsed on the ground. Since he started his business, his indulgence had taken a toll on his body. Now, even 10 of him couldn't match me.
Nora, tone. Sneering Emily, are you sure this document is mine?
Emily, who was watching the show, looked uneasy.
Helen, tone, shouting you wretch. What do you mean? Would Emily falsely accuse you? Your name is clearly written on it. You can't deny it.
Ignoring Helen's murderous glare, I threw out a stack of evidence showing Emily's chaotic private life and her use of my name at a small clinic. The photos were quite eye-catching. Emily's face turned pale, and she looked like she was about to collapse.
Can't handle it? Ha!
Emily, tone, shouting that's not me. Those photos are doctored. Sis, why are you framing me? Can't you tolerate me?
Emily's face was covered in tears as she frantically defended herself. Tears had always been Emily's weapon since childhood. Helen tore the photos to shreds and comforted Emily.
Helen, tone, shouting, don't cry, Emily. Don't cry. Mom believes you. Those are fake, fake.
You can never wake someone pretending to sleep. My heart felt desolate. Emily's cries grew louder, and her almost fainting performance deserved full marks.
Helen, tone, shouting wretch. How dare you falsely accuse your sister? Get out of this house.
Only John looked defeated and silent, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. He looked at Emily, then at me, his expression complex. John wasn't a fool.
Emily, Tone, terrified I don't want to see her. Mom, make her leave. I'm so scared.
Helen, tone, shouting get out. Get out of the Smith family.
Nora, tone. Serious, do you think so too, Mr. Smith?
This was the last chance I was giving the Smith family.
John, tone, serious Nora, you're the elder sister. Once you leave today, this matter will never be mentioned again. The Smith family's future depends on Emily. I'll compensate you appropriately.
Calm now, John didn't look at me or Emily. Since he couldn't suppress me with his authority as a father, he played the family card. Weighing the pros and cons, this was his final decision. I was abandoned again, even though I knew I wasn't wrong. It was the same before, and it was the same now.
I had anticipated this outcome, and surprisingly, I didn't feel a bit of sadness. That thin bond of kinship had long vanished after countless abandonments.
I walked to the sofa and sat down, playing with a cup on the coffee table, pretending to be deep in thought.
Nora, tone. Serious, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, I'm afraid I can't leave. This is my home.
Helen, tone, shouting not only did you ruin Emily's birthday, but you also dared to falsely accuse her. I don't have a daughter like you. This isn't your home. This is Emily's home.
Is that so? Ha ha.
I laughed again, wondering if Mrs. Smith would still have such confidence in a moment. The doorbell rang just then. John's demeanor changed, and he almost ran to open the door. Helen seemed to realize something and immediately pulled Emily to tidy up her clothes and hair, waiting gracefully for the guest.
Helen, tone, serious Nora, don't say anything inappropriate. Otherwise, don't blame me for being harsh.
As the footsteps approached, I looked up at the group of people entering, my smile growing wider. Emily, who had been full of anticipation, now looked as if she had seen a ghost, trembling. Today, I invited all the fish from Emily's pond, having thoroughly investigated her messy affairs. True to form, they realized they were just one of Emily's many fish and were instantly furious.
Emily, how could you do this?
John slapped Emily hard several times. Emily just cried without a word of defense.
John, stop it. Emily is young and must have been deceived. She's so sweet and sensible. This must be a misunderstanding.
John, they must have mistaken Nora for Emily. That wretched Nora has always been malicious and can't stand to see Emily happy.
I shook my head. Indeed, the daughter raised by their side received different treatment.
Enough, Helen.
John pushed Helen aside and slapped Emily a few more times. Her tear-streaked face no longer held its usual haughty demeanor. The farce soon ended.
Are you satisfied now?
Satisfied? Of course not. The main act hadn't even begun. I didn't answer, just glanced at John indifferently. The doorbell rang again. The person I had been waiting for had finally arrived. Julia arrived, carrying a large cake and a bouquet of vibrant flowers.
Sis, why are you here? Thank you for coming to celebrate Emily's birthday.
John also beamed with a smile, exchanging pleasantries. Emily obediently stepped forward to greet her. Only I stood still.
Nora, I'm sorry I'm late. Happy birthday!
Julia smiled, her red lips curving into a charming smile. Helen and John's smiles froze.
Nora, it's your birthday today, and you didn't even tell me? You child.
John's face visibly reddened, and Emily's eyes were filled with resentment as she looked at me.
Sis, you.
What? You two are allowed to throw a birthday party for your little princess, but I'm not allowed to do the same for mine? You two are really something.
Julia lit a cigarette with an elegance that was hard to describe. John and Helen couldn't say a word. They didn't dare offend Julia, so they turned their anger towards me.
Nora, you did this on purpose, didn't you? Trying to embarrass me?
She blamed me for not telling her in advance that today was my birthday, making her lose face in front of Julia.
Mrs. Smith, why are you yelling? Don't forget, Nora is no longer your daughter, she's on my household register now.
Julia pulled me to sit down with a commanding presence.
Fine. You all can leave. You're not welcome here. This is the Smith family.
Helen was clearly enraged. For Emily's sake, she even had the courage to fall out with Julia. John sat silently on the side, clearly agreeing with Helen. This couple was truly something, each more hypocritical than the other.
Yes, we should leave, but it's not my dear Nora who should go, it's your whole family. John, Helen, why don't you tell me? How did the birthday gift I gave to my dear Nora end up with Emily? This house and car are registered under Nora's name.
Julia's words were like a thunderclap out of nowhere.
No. Impossible, it was supposed to be a birthday gift for the Smith family's daughter.
John's words trailed off as he collapsed onto the sofa, muttering in despair. The Smith family's last hope had crumbled. How could they not be disappointed?
Mr. Smith, have you remembered by now that you have another daughter whose birthday is today?
Sis, Emily is also your niece. How can you be so biased?
I can give my things to whoever I want, including everything I have, which will all belong to my dear Nora in the future.
Julia patted my shoulder and gently wiped away my tears. After my grandmother, meeting Julia was the luckiest thing in my life.
Sis, Emily got into the best music academy, while Nora hasn't even graduated from a third-rate university. How can she compare to Emily?
Helen hurriedly pulled Emily forward. There was no mysterious benefactor for Emily, the truth was out. Having lived a life of luxury, Helen and Emily were not about to give up on Julia, their golden goose.
TSK. Emily, huh? Why don't you make a call and find out which academy your precious daughter got into?
Julia flicked her cigarette ash, her eyes cold. Emily's chaotic personal life and forged acceptance letters had shattered the layers of filters she had tonight. Half an hour later, Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith left the villa in a hurry with Emily.
This house is tainted. It's better not to stay here. Let's move somewhere else, my little princess.
Julia's eyes were full of laughter.
Thank you, Aunt Julia. I nestled beside her, feeling particularly at ease.
That year, perhaps out of shared misfortune, John and Helen brought me to Julia's house, asking her to temporarily take me in. Julia merely glanced at me and said,
Then let her stay.
With just that one sentence, I finally had a home. Julia and John were twins, with Julia being born 5 minutes earlier, yet their treatment was vastly different. As the elder sister, Julia had endured many hardships. When she finally had the ability to fight back against her original family, she severed all ties. It wasn't until the passing of our grandparents that her relationship with John began to thaw. Even so, she maintained a detached stance towards the Smith family's situation, neither offering help nor adding to their troubles. Julia and John had little affection for each other, perhaps because she saw a reflection of her past self in me. Having been through tough times, she wanted to shelter others from the rain. So, she took me in. From the second year of living with Julia, my household registration was transferred to hers. Before sending me to Julia's house, Helen and John asked me to call them uncle and aunt in the future because Emily was still young and couldn't accept anyone else calling them mom and dad. I agreed. Despite her seemingly indifferent demeanor, Julia poured her heart and soul into me over the past 10 years. She used her unique way to gradually lead me out of the shadows, making me strong and outstanding, freeing me from the shackles of being the Smith family's daughter.
When it's time to cut ties, do it.
Her words echoed my long-held desire. The plan was mine, but Julia supported all my actions. She once told me,
Everything depends on fate, including family ties. There's no need to force it.
After that night, I quickly moved to a new place and officially took over Julia's business. Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith came to see me a few times, but I refused to meet them. I knew why they wanted to see me. The Smith family had gone bankrupt, and creditors were knocking on their door. I was their only hope. The couple wanted me to return, under the guise of family unity, repeatedly promising to treat me and Emily equally. But I was no longer at an age where I sought comfort from my parents when wronged. What I once longed for, I no longer cared about. When their first attempt failed, the couple tried to leverage our biological relationship, claiming I had a duty to support them as their biological daughter. Of course, I wouldn't comply. Legally adopted children have no obligation to support their biological parents. After a few failed attempts, Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith stopped coming. How they lived was no longer my concern, and I no longer inquired about them. I cherished every day I had now. The future belonged to Julia and me, and each day felt like a divine blessing.